My name is Olivia Donnelly. 7 News is your local election headquarters, and we will be speaking with the several candidates, all vying for the Spartanburg County Sheriff position. Joining me today, we have Joseph Pilato. Thank you so much for joining us on your Tuesday morning. I know you've kind of been running around on the campaign trail, so we appreciate you squeezing in some time to answer some questions.
Oh, I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Absolutely. Before we get into some of those questions, for those who don't know you, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I've been a police officer over 30 years. I've been a prison and jail chaplain for over 35. And that was actually my original calling for service to the public, is when I got ordained as a minister in Texas and started serving with the Dallas County Sheriff's Office as a volunteer chaplain, and then went over multiple agencies into the Irving Police Department. And I was serving as their jail chaplain over there when God called me into law enforcement in Texas, just outside of Fort Worth.
Nice.
So in a kind of a summary, my life transitioned from policing in the academy there in Texas over to Florida. And then in 2011, I felt God calling us up here to Spartanburg, South Carolina, where we didn't have any family or friends. And we sensed God, this is where He was appointing me to serve. And that's where I've been serving for the last 14 years, working with traffic and patrol, working with domestic violence as the lead investigator, being an instructor here with the South Carolina Criminal Justice Academy, teaching on domestic violence, or co-teaching that with a good friend of mine who's trying to get strangulation legislation passed here in South Carolina. And then recently I've worked with all the homelessness and the mental illness as their homeless liaison officers for those with drug addictions and alcohol, which is a big problem here for everybody.
Wow. So you've got a couple different hats that you've worn over your tenure here with the city of Spartanburg.
Yes, ma'am.
Talk to me about why you want to be the sheriff.
To be honest with you, I didn't want to be the sheriff. I had no aspirations. Even when God called me into law enforcement, I had no aspirations of being involved as a police officer. But it's a calling that you take upon your life seriously, especially when your walk is one of faith and trusting God for purposes for your life. I've always loved to interact with people in community, and as a result, this is one of my strengths, that I love developing relationships with people in everything I do, whether it's in my neighborhood or whether it's in policing. Even when I instruct as a law enforcement officer, it's always developing relationships and trying to bring people forward. So why I end up running for sheriff is, a lot of times I got a call from citizens, I got a call from business owners, I got a call from other law enforcement officers with the sheriff's department and also in the city. And they're saying, Pilato, you're the only outsider from here. You've been fighting in the backgrounds to bring change for a long time. You're very knowledgeable, you're very passionate about everything you do, and you see a uniqueness that most people don't see in how to bring change constantly for the better. And when it comes to community, that's huge, because there's a lot of hopelessness and there's a lot of people struggling, and they're confused about what our role is in law enforcement, just arresting people. Because we'll be in the store and you'll have people come up to us and say, now if you don't behave yourselves when it comes to their children, I'm going to tell this officer and he's going to arrest you. And that's all they know. And we want to change their perspective as to being good community leaders and servants, and not just taking everybody to jail, bringing that hope, bringing that education, bringing that relationship with them that builds trust. And with trust, everything can be built upon.
Sure. For those who do not know you, and I know you kind of rattled it off earlier when you introduced yourself, what qualifies you to be the sheriff for this position?
I've been in law enforcement over 30 years. I bring to the table a lot of my training and expertise, both coming from outside academies and outside perspectives. Service is one thing that we have almost forgotten in law enforcement: how to properly treat people, how to understand their problems. And training is one of my strengths that I have always been big on, both in education for the citizens as well as the law enforcement officer, because I don't want to see us caught behind with things coming our way. For example, during 9/11, I can tell you exactly where I was when I was in Florida when the trade towers got hit, but nobody knew what to do. It was so surreal, and yet people felt that hopelessness and despair, even in law enforcement, because nobody knew what to do with what you had. So when we're better equipped to understand our surroundings, how our roles are, and how we can jump in without trying to guess ourselves twice, we're able to bring that service that is needed in emergencies. I mean, that's why people dial 911. They want us to bring the solutions and our training and experience. It's better to have muscle memory than try to go look in a manual and second guess yourself. And that's what everybody needs in these emergency times.
What do you know about the current sheriff's department situation, and what are some of the changes that you would like to make?
It's a mess from what I'm hearing, both from those inside and outside. Our jail has been overcrowded for over 5 years. It's a 500-bed jail, and we're pushing somewhere between 1,200 and almost 1,400 inmates in there, which is way overcrowding.
Wow.
It's causing compromise for the safety of the officers. They're overworked. The safety of those citizens are the same way. Our Department of Corrections is even overcrowding. So, for example, a couple of weeks ago in the city, they had to arrest the same violent offender twice who was dealing with a gun. And he came in on, I believe, like on a Friday. He was back out, and they were rearresting him again on a Sunday. The charges went from aggravated, mine's going blank on the exact charge at this point, but to attempted murder, two very similar charges. But violent offenders should not be being kicked out faster than we can keep them. No officers blamed for that, because our county council has known we've been overcrowded for a long time and nobody's done anything. The sheriff's department has known about it, and they've tried to get county council to change, and both are playing politics with the safety of the individuals. Other things, morale at the department is huge. A lot of officers are retiring early or getting out, and their mental health is in the stress point of breaking right now, because they don't feel anybody's listening to them, understanding the dangers that we serve every day. And as another kind of ramped up effect, they're no longer going out to serve, they're just responding when they have to. So they're forgetting their service, which is important right on the front end. That's what we all do. That's why we got into this. And when you get to that point, you can't even get bodies to sign up to want to become a law enforcement officer anymore, because people are feeling this is not a good place to be, it's already dangerous, and why would I want to jump into that field with all the stresses of life, and people are not being, let's just say, loving you in your corner. So those things, one of the biggest things, the assets that I have and trying to bring to the table is training. We need to be ready for anything that comes our way. I want people to move into Spartanburg County, not run away from Spartanburg County. Trust, integrity, transparency, those are some things that we need right on the top all the time. If people don't trust you, they don't even want to pick up the phone and call you. So when you build relationships with people like they did for me to get in this race, they understand who you are personally. They already know you're the guy with the gun and the badge on your side, but they're calling you personally because you've taken the time to build these relationships with them, and that's what policing is all about. That community relationship is everything, because they're your eyes and your ears every day out there telling you what's going on, working in conjunction with you because they know you care just like it's your own family. And you're not just a Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 kind of officer, but you're there to respond, build relationships with other officers for their community, and bring solutions to the table. So those are things we need, and I want to see brought back, as well as there's many other issues dealing with mental health, drug addictions, alcoholism, and even for the officers, the mental health is not just a problem here in Spartanburg County. The citizens are going through those mental health stresses, especially since COVID, and officers, paramedics, doctors even are going through these same mental health stresses, feeling like nobody cares anymore. So these are all issues we got to tackle just on the top part to solve the problem and rebuild trust and community again.
Those are all great points. Thank you. Interim Sheriff Stevens has dropped Operation Rolling Thunder. Do you agree with this decision?
Let me give you a little background, because Rolling Thunder has become more political than understanding its purposes. Now, I haven't been involved with it, nor do I know its full effects. I know when I was in Texas working interdiction, people don't understand that interdiction has its purposes, just like having a set of stop sticks in your car or dealing with jumper cables in your trunk, but in a deeper way, interdiction is dealing with those types of activities that endanger our community, with drugs, with guns, with human trafficking and everything else. It has its role, but not right now. You know, right now we've got to fix community. We got to build up our numbers and strength and the size of officers to serve the public. Rolling thunder was something that unfortunately people missed the mark on. When you're dealing with cars that are loaded with contraband, and especially drugs always go north, money always comes south. We knew that in Texas, and that's why the dealers do it. They bring into your community this evil that's killing your kids. For example, dealing with fentanyl and things along those lines. We're dealing with drug overdoses in a great way, but you can't tackle them until you start to address the safety issues in the public. So I'm not pro rolling thunder, but I'm not against bringing interdiction back on our highways, because when you start taking the money away, the drugs away, and you start punishing those who are harming our communities from Mexico and from China, you understand we don't want to give them the advantage and poison our community. We want to do that as a secondary role to keep our citizens safe. But if you add that in conjunction, like we did with our district attorney in Texas, that when you come into our county, we mean business, and there's going to be huge penalties to pay for bringing this stuff into our county, people are not going to want to come into our county that are doing things illegally, because they know there's going to be a penalty to pay. They're not going to risk doing 30 years to life when you're serious about the enforcement end, and you're serious about it from the prosecutor's end, to make sure people understand we take pride in this county, we take pride in protecting our citizens, and we're not going to play with you who want to come here and be criminalizing our community. So when citizens know that you stand behind them and you're just not re-releasing offenders for the 30th time, they're not going to even want to drive down our highways, let alone come into our communities, because they're going to know there's reality of consequences. And Texas proved it, and I know it can be done here again.
Mr. Pilato, thank you. We are going to head to a quick break, and we will be right back.
Thank you.
Welcome back to WSPA Plus. 7 News is your local election headquarters. We are interviewing today Joseph Pilato. He is one of the several candidates for Spartanburg County Sheriff. Thank you for being here with us. The questions roll on. The sheriff is one of, if you will, the most powerful positions in the county. We've seen numerous examples of across the state abuse of power. What would you say to the people who live in Spartanburg County about how you will treat this responsibility and not abuse your powers?
Trust and transparency go hand in hand. When people understand your heart to serve them, their confidence is what you do, not just what you say. People who have known me for a long time know that when I've been placed in those positions of trust, especially when they're vulnerable on a 911 call, they know that my heart is to make sure they're safe, they're protected, they're educated, and I do my follow-ups, not just that day with them, but in days and weeks to come, as many a citizen has attested to. I want to make sure from a leadership standpoint, as a servant leader, this vision is all the way down to the individual who's going to be responding to your house. You're not going to see me as a sheriff that hides behind a desk. You're going to see me active just like I have been in my entire career, whether I was in CID or any place else. Most of the time my desk was empty and I was myself responding to your calls, just so that I understand from all the officers out there in the different zones and beats what you're going through to understand how to bring change. So when you understand your heart is going to become my heart, as it always has been in service, you will understand the need for this transparency is urgent, because I'm not a person who likes to be accountable just to myself. I like to surround myself by those who can also watch my back in case I'm having an off day, so that you know that these days aren't just inhumane, meaning I'm humid, but I also got people that can encourage me just like I can do you to make sure we're doing this job right. Because we all have days we miss things because of our blind spots. So I have always learned to surround myself by good people, by transparency, and before God at the end of the day, doing always what is right. So I want you to know I don't take my authority lightly. I didn't as a police officer. Even as the #1 person in this, you're going to know that nothing is changing as far as the authority and the constitutionality of my job. It's just going to be extended with both feet, with my passion, always doing what is right for you, no matter what.
To piggyback off of that, what is the relationship, if any, with some of the sheriff's deputies who would serve underneath you, and what's a message that you have for them?
My message is to remind all officers we are blessed in a position, especially if you understand this is a calling from God, just to make a difference in people's lives every day. My wife and I continually have prayed, Lord, just bring us the appointments you have for me, and in addition to keep me safe, to want to bring that hope to understand what's going on. I know I can't solve everybody's problems, but if I multiply myself with others underneath, especially from the deputy's role, and they would get the same passion and vision that I have for service, they would understand we're not just going and knocking on doors or responding agitated because we're having to be called, but we get a chance to speak into people's lives and make a difference, especially when it's generational, that you feel like, for example, domestics, where you can break cycles, or with mental health, bring people that hope, or those with drug addictions and alcoholism, you can speak into their life and tell them that despite all the trauma and things they have lived with, you're there to help them go through these situations. And although we may not be able to do it for everybody, we can continually bring that light and shed it into people's lives to bring a positive outcome versus just going through the motion. But you deputies, especially officers who are out there, remember, this is a calling. This is something we're blessed to be able to go into people's houses, speak into their lives, and make a difference. Because without it, a lot of people lose the trust and faith in us, and that's our role. Just like the firemen who respond to the calls of fire, or paramedics during the time frame of a 911 when someone's having a heart attack, you can do more than you're trained to do. You can speak hope into people's lives, and that's our calling.
Do you have a relationship with any of the deputies who you would serve over?
Oh, most certainly. I have relationships with just about everybody across the 911 field, and have always done that.
Okay.
Even when I was with Sarasota County, I used to kid around with the fire department, and because my house was a little farther from our training center in Sarasota, I spent many a night sleeping in a fire station over there and got to know them and their paramedics. And in humor, we used to have the ABC rule. It was always ambulance before cop car, just to help us in those situations where their strengths were. So you love building relationships with people. These deputies are very important, but not just the deputies, the city officers all over the county. We're there to assist them as well as they are to assist us, because they may be your closest backup, and we need everyone, including citizens, to be caring for each other.
So you mentioned kind of making the teamwork to get the job done. How would you describe your relationship with members of Spartanburg County Council?
I don't really have a lot of relationships with them particularly. I had more with the city council because I was a city police officer.
Okay.
I am disappointed to see and also hear and watch some of the videos of our county council. I think they have lost perspective, and I'm just being blunt about it. I think they have lost the understanding of what service is, because if you're looking out for number one and you're not thinking of why you're there, and you're only looking out for what is best for you and your family, then you don't need to be in a position of any government role. Government is there to serve the people and to make sure their safety and needs are met first and foremost. When you can get up before county council and tell people we're just going to respond to you at a later date, to me that's an insult, because that's a time of exchange where you can hear the concerns of your constituents and want to make a difference. If you're there for any other reason, you shouldn't be there at all serving anyone, because that role has been lost. Government is there to serve the people, not people serve government. And that doesn't matter which role you're in.
What do you know about the Sheriff's Department budget and how the budget aligns with the needs that you mentioned earlier, the needs of the department?
With all the growth that we have had here in Spartanburg, there shouldn't be a concern with budget, meaning there should be the finances already, from all the housing, from all the businesses, from everything there. The question should be is, what are we doing with this finances, and why haven't we built the infrastructure to better serve our community, from roads to fire to EMS to police? If we got the same amount of officers and firemen and EMS on the road that we did from 20 years ago before this explosion in growth, they have done us a grave injustice, because the response times, the violence, the crime that comes with it is only endangering our public and not properly serving us. from the highway patrol all the way to the sheriff's deputies, even here with the city, there has always been a shortage of personnel. So for everybody to see and know this growth has been coming and has not been forecasting, even from the hospital's expansions, we're not ready for most of what we've got, and it's a dangerous time, whether people believe it or not. Hurricane Helene just showed us a brief sample of what we're facing without any reality of how we're going to solve the problem. So this would be like trying to have kids and then not knowing about education, where you're going to take them and how you're going to raise them properly. We're not properly planning for everybody's benefits of both a safe community and, more importantly, a community that everybody wants to be in. And I'm hoping to change that just from the outsider's perspective, to show people we have missed the mark and we got time right now to change it before this continues dangerously to continue down that path to harm us all.
I read you've been involved in several specialized units. You mentioned it earlier with your hand in different jobs. What to you are your top 3 safety issues?
Number 1, mental health. Because the crisis is, you're hearing about it, whether it's in Greenville County or all over the state, officers are becoming more and more involved in officer-involved shootings, which at times are preventable both with training and understanding your community. So one of those issues is to re-educate people, because our average citizen has gone through so much, especially through COVID and being isolated from even communities where you didn't know whether you could come out, wear a mask, get a shot, not get a shot. There's been a lot of stresses, things going on even worldwide and with our news. So I want people to understand between drugs and alcohol and mental illness, these are things we're taking for granted and we're almost sweeping them under the rug. And at times it drives people to become homeless, and there's a world of community out there that just needs our attention. But even the officers are struggling and almost ashamed to speak out to others about it, because they're feeling like everybody's gonna either get them in a position to get fired or they're not qualified to do it. But we're all human, and that's happening with paramedics and everybody else. The other 2 issues is training. We're so far behind the times. When I got here in 2011, half my certifications from Texas and Florida, they didn't even know what to do with here in the South Carolina Criminal Justice Academy, because they hadn't thought that far ahead how to better train their officers, how to serve the community. And most of that training is still needed, both in the education area, for example, citizens police academies. Here in our city, we did a phenomenal job training the citizens behind the scenes to see what we do, so they get an understanding of what we do, the stresses we're under, and why we have to make some of those decisions we do that initially they would disagree with. So education on that realm is a huge thing, and prevention, just to keep us ahead of the terrorist trains, the hurricanes, the storms we've got. And the third most important is building community, and it's not in 1, 2, or 3 order, but my 3 important things are building trust and community back. Because when you have a healthy and safe community, you're not hiding behind doorbell ringers, afraid who's going to knock at your door, which we're experiencing, my wife and I, when we just go and knock on people's doors. There's a ton of doors that say no soliciting. They're afraid of people even coming to their door or who's parked outside, but they're not wanting to dial 911 because they don't have relationships with officers, or they're fed up with law enforcement, sometimes in part that they don't even want to take the time to call. And as a result, their neighborhood is left unsafe with people going and breaking into cars. They see it, but they don't respond because there's no more relationships. So these things are important. Community trust is everything, and building community, a safe one, is what we all should be aspiring to.
We have about a minute left. If you become sheriff, what is the first thing you will do?
Honestly, I have to assess. I'm a visual person, so I've got to assess and not take for granted that someone else is doing it for me, to bring outsiders back in, to see the books, to see what we've done right and to see what we've done wrong, and to talk with all the officers to assess what we've got going on, to how to repair those breaches between community and citizens. I've got to fix things on the front side first before we can get this train going down the tracks to help everybody out. I don't want to endanger anybody, and people will look at me to see, why didn't you, Pilato, do this on the first and foremost on the top end to see what needs to be changed. So please give me time to assess the damage. I jump in passionately and with both feet to make sure you're safe, the officers are safe, and where we can hit the tracks running. So that's going to be my goal up front.
I have your website pulled up for those who are tuning in. What is it? And so that we know where to go if we want to learn more information.
Yes, please stay up, especially with my Facebook page.
Okay.
It's Pilato, Pilato, number 4, Sheriff, Sheriff. Pilato for Sheriff is going to be the Facebook page, or if you want to check on the other site, it's pilatoforsheriff.com.
Fabulous. We appreciate your time today. We will have all of those links at WSPA.com as well as WSPA Plus. We appreciate you joining us for your time. Thank you.
Thank you all for watching.